So I'm curious, when you do your 3 sessions in a in one day, what's your thoughts for the next day? What's your goals as far as training, recovery,
Well,
nutrition, hydration, school,
one of the
right?
reasons, yeah, what were you gonna say?
Because you're not, if you've got like a midterm or a final, you're not going to train 3 times the previous day, right?
No, yeah, I'm definitely pretty tired today. One of the reasons why like I decided to train so much yesterday was because I knew that today I would only be able to train. I thought I was like, only gonna be able to train like once at the 6 a.m.,
Mm.
but I'm able to go to the 6 p.m. So I didn't go to 6 a.m. But yeah, I'm still tired regardless.
Dude, at 6 a.m. I mean, unless you're doing that on a regular basis, 6 a.m. is early
Yeah.
to train, right? I mean, you gotta, there's the before work crowd, but if you're used to training at like, a midday, like a noon, getting up at 6 to train is like it can throw your whole day off.
Dude, yeah, it's hard, but when I do get into the routine of training um at like 6 a.m. and waking up that early, I feel great. Like when
Mm.
I really do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's for everyone, but I think for a lot of people, if we did exercise in the morning, I feel like that's oftentimes the best timing.
Yeah, there is something I'm not sure exactly, but it was something about I think maybe like Huberman was talking about like the keys to like waking up and like having a good like energizing day, and I think like part of it was like getting sunlight. And there was also like an interesting component which was the social
Hmm.
like connection. Like apparently if you do that in the morning, then it'll help you wake up a little bit faster or maybe keep you energized throughout the day. And then another thing is the exercise. And I do think if I exercise in the morning or do some type of rolling or workout, I really I feel good the rest of the day. I feel pretty energized.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. For some people that are either getting back into exercise or trying to lose weight, I usually recommend that if they can exercise, and for some people it's simply a walk. But if they can exercise in the morning, and if they can take that walk, or usually a walk after dinner, that can make such a difference because it's getting your metabolism going. It's allowing your skeletal muscle to continue to bring in glucose. So it ends up helping with weight loss. It helps people feel better, helps people sleep as well. But you don't have any of those issues.
No, I don't. Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about for today?
Okay, so I think yeah, I liked those like top three, like the top three question you asked me last time was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a question for you. So if you're looking at training through the eyes of someone like me who's a younger guy who likes to train a lot, but they also want to have that longevity and they don't want to have issues in their, like late 30s, 40s, and 50s if they want to keep training. What do you think the top three ways to, or the top three habits to build are in your 20s so that you can continue training for longevity without having, nagging injuries or anything serious?
That's a great question. Okay, so, and I'm going to tie this back in because what you're asking is actually a concept that I learned in Chinese medicine, which is the decade that you're in, what you're doing in this current decade is setting you up for the next decade. Okay. So, and I'm also going to go off of what I've seen issue wise that keeps people from rolling or modifies their rolling so much that they're basically not able to do what they wanted to do. So the first one I'm going to say is protect your neck.
Hmm.
So the neck is not meant to be weight bearing joints except for your head. And our head weighs about as much as a bowling ball. But when people invert or people have certain guard games, when they get a lot of stress and their body weight or their opponent's weight placed on their neck, those joints, they're called facet joints. Those joints can get arthritic and they can start to degrade. And when that happens, you have all of these nerves that are coming out right past the facet joints. And it is unfortunate, but people end up with chronic pain going to the back of the shoulder, going to the shoulder, and worst case scenario, they'll end up with pain going down into the arm or all the way down into the fingers. And I've seen people lose their triceps, lose their biceps because of the nerve damage from injuring their neck. Okay, so that's number one, protect your neck. Number two is going to be either knee or shoulder, and I'll kind of put those together. Um, a lot of injuries from people just not being aware or not tapping early enough with whether it's an arm bar, Kimura, whatever it is, the too much stress on the shoulder, they're late with tapping, and they end up damaging their rotator cuff. And your rotator cuff is made up of four different major tendons. So if you tear, you damage one of those four, or all of those four, or however many of those four, you could end up with lifelong issues. And you may not be able to roll just because you don't have control of your shoulder or you've got constant pain. Now, for the knee, actually, let's make the knee number three. For the knee, now that there's way more ankle locks and leg locks, yes, you may feel something at your ankle, but what you really need to be careful of is your knee. That force, the kinetic force, transfers so quickly from your ankle or your foot to your knee that things can happen relatively quickly, and you might feel or hear a pop or a snap before you have time to a tap. And what could be snapping could be your ACL, it could be your MCL or your medial collateral ligament, the ligament that's inside of the knee that provides a lot of stability. And that's an injury that can be very difficult to come back from. So number one, protect your neck. Number two, your shoulder. Number three, your knee.
I have a question about the neck.
Yeah.
I think like for me personally, the neck is definitely something that I find that it kind of nags me from time to time. Like most of my body is fine usually, but definitely my neck is usually where I have trouble or I have a little bit of pain. And um I think one of the things that I found that like really helps me besides the preventative um like measures while I'm rolling, like not inverting and doing all that stuff, is like just massaging or using like a massage gun like on my traps, and
Mm-hmm.
it just feels so much better after I do that for like 30 seconds to a minute. So
Yeah.
what is that? Is that real or is it just in my head?
Oh no, it's absolutely real. Your traps are very strong, and it is providing a certain amount of stability to your cervical spine or to your neck. Um, Using something like a massage gun, using something like a lacrosse ball or one of those Rogue peanut, um, they kind of look like an eight or a peanut. Doing that on a regular basis before you roll, after you roll, is extremely helpful. Let's actually kind of go up the ladder. So I would consider those to be prehab and rehab, and something very easy that you can do by yourself. Next in order would be making sure that you're doing something that is more of a formalized stretch. That could be yoga, it could be Pilates, it could be taking a class in order to help with your neck. Next would be something like the iron neck. I don't know if you've ever seen something like that, but it's a halo, and it allows you to actually strengthen in 360 degrees. So you're getting all aspects of your neck, not just the posterior and the anterior, but you're actually getting some of the side strap muscles, and you're able to be dynamic while you're holding tension the entire time. Once you get past that, now you're looking into more regenerative techniques. So this is where you would come to see me and you're getting injections, or you're using peptides like BPC and TB500 called Wolverine. You're using something in order to help decrease the inflammation and increase the soft tissue. And after the peptides, I would say now, if you're younger, we're looking at PRP. If you're older, you're starting to look at exosomes. And if it's really severe, you're starting to look at stem cells. So that's kind of the ladder or the hierarchy for helping with your neck.
So you're saying the maximum, like if you want to help your neck without like just on your own would probably be the iron neck if you didn't want to have any treatments with a medical professional.
Yeah, yeah. And you're gonna have to take your time, because what you're doing is strengthening these areas of your neck, and that the strengthening process then starts to provide a certain amount of stability, because oftentimes people have neck pain because your neck muscles are working to try to keep your neck stable. Those muscles are actually meant to help with movement. They're not meant to help keep your neck stable. So when you're using the massage gun and you're kind of working those areas out, you're getting certain trigger points, you're getting areas that have been bunched up, but you're also helping relieve muscles that have just gotten tight and probably overworked. And that's one of the reasons why you're starting to feel better with the massage gun.
Yeah, I definitely think I use my head and neck way too much as like a post just because like it's I honestly don't know the reason why. Maybe it's because of wrestling, but like a lot of the times I'll like yeah, just like when I'm pinning someone down, the forehead on the mat is just so useful that it's like it's hard to give up. And then I'll
Yeah.
try to train and like I feel like the inversion stuff is not as hard to avoid. But for me, one of my instincts almost is to yeah, plant that forehead on the mat when I'm trying to keep someone down. And it's yeah, it's I think I have to be really aware of that in my
Yeah.
training.
So you're using your head as a post. I think that's fine. Where I get squirmish as a doc and as a player is when I see someone um, on their back or on their neck, and then they get stacked. And I can tell it's like, oh, that's a horrible place for you to be. And especially if I see them kind of turning and they're stuck. So they can't actually roll out of it. They're actually stuck on their neck instead of being on their shoulders.
Mhm.
So that's the thing that you want to avoid, especially when you're in that position and you start to hear some crunching sensations. You know that you're just grinding those joints together, and those joints are never meant to be under that kind of load.
Okay, that's good to know. I also have another little anecdote that I thought maybe contributed to my like neck, not like pain, but just kind of issues. One time, I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 months ago, I was training at an open mat with one of my friends who is probably 20, 25 pounds heavier than me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I had been seeing a lot of cool like Uchimatas on Instagram and on videos like B Team and stuff. So you know, I went for an Uchimata, but for whatever reason, I I don't know, I just didn't do it right. And what happened was I had a whizzer. I kicked the whizzer, but then I just fell straight forward with his weight on my
Oh
back
no.
and
Uh-huh.
just straight onto the top of my head and forehead. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I just paralyzed myself." I was so scared because I like basically his weight and my weight on the top of my head and I like
Yep.
rolled forward out of it. And I had to take a second. I was like, "Please, like I I
You're
hope I
checking.
could just feel
Can,
everything."
can I feel my fingers? Can I feel my toes?
I know, and thankfully, like I sat out the rest of the open mat. My neck hurt a little bit, but I was so scared going to sleep that night because I just got the idea into my head, like, what if I wake up and I just can't move? And I was
Oh
so scared. But thankfully, I'm okay. I can move.
yeah,
Um,
that's a horror right there, man. That's
yeah,
scary. That's scary.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's yeah. I've since then I've been like way more careful about just my neck, and it's definitely one of the top things I kind of prioritize when I'm rolling in terms of safety of my body.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Yeah. That's good.
Okay, also for the shoulders, I feel like when I'm rolling, a lot of the times my shoulders are a lot more flexible than other people. And so I usually kind of put myself into omoplatas and I kind of just sit there. It's not like definitely not the greatest strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I usually just sit there and a lot of shoulder submissions I'm able to kind of work out of if my opponent is just holding it there, like for example, a Kimura, like if I angle my body right, it won't like I feel like I know when a Kimura is on and when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I just wanted to ask you, are there differences in shoulder flexibility from person to person, or does it have something to do with age, or am I just is my ego just too big and am I not tapping?
No, so there are huge differences in people's shoulder flexibility. So, like, you just might be one of those Gumby type folks where, you're, for example, I will in an examination, I'll ask people to take their hand and touch the top of their other shoulder. And so I can do that, but some people, and you can see, some people might only be able to get to about here. They can't actually touch. And then going the other way, I'll have people go and on the backside essentially, how high can they bring their fingertips up to touch the tip of their shoulder blade? Some people can easily do that. Some people can only get their hand a little bit past the small of their back. So there's a huge variation in shoulder flexibility. And if you have flexible shoulders, absolutely use that to your advantage, right? If you can bait someone into that position knowing that you're going to be getting out of it, then I would use that all day long. You're like,
Nice.
yep.
Good to know. Um,
Oh, and
yeah,
and I should mention for those, if you have tight shoulders, work on the flexibility because it's only going to make you better with your jujitsu, but it's also going to help with your longevity and with your health. So you might as well, use the time that you're rolling to work on your shoulder flexibility after you roll. Get those exercises in where you're actually going to help your shoulders and you're going to cool down at the same time.
what would you say are like maybe like three like top good shoulder mobility exercises or movements or drills that someone could do to improve their flexibility?
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I think what most people need actually is shoulder stability
Mm.
And from the stability, then they're going to get more of the flexibility. So there's several. I wish I had one of them here right now. So one of the ones that I really like is called the Body Blade, and it is something that creates. You're trying to hold it still while it's slightly moving, but because it's this long, flexible blade, it it really makes your small stabilizer muscles work very hard to try to keep it still. So that's one of them. I have this other one, and maybe when we talk again in the future, it's actually meant to teach you how to throw a punch correctly. But if you can use it in a way that really helps you stabilize your shoulder because you're in motions that are like this, you can get all planes with this device. So that's providing you stability. And then that stability is then because your shoulder is going to be stronger, your brain is going to feel that your shoulder is protected. It's going to make it easier for you then to work on the flexibility.
Mm. Yeah, I think now that you mention the stability and the flexibility and how they kind of have like are intertwined. Um, when I first started lifting weights,
Mm-hmm.
I started lifting like over COVID with my dad, and my dad would always have me do lat raises with dumbbells, and I
Yep.
just remember doing so many of those. And I think now that I think about it, it that might have really contributed to my shoulder flexibility and my kind of resistance to certain omoplata positions. Because yeah, I train shoulders a lot, especially in the weight room with dumbbells.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. And a lot of people, what ends up happening is they focus on the larger muscles or the muscles that look good on the beach, but those aren't the ones that stabilize your shoulders. So, I mean, your dad's a very, very smart man. So, what he's had you go through is really building up a great foundation, not only for strength, but obviously now you see for the flexibility.
yeah, that was when I was wrestling. So yeah, I think he definitely knew kind of what exercises would help me the most for grappling. And I don't know if he was looking into the future, but he really helped me with jujitsu. So yeah.
Shout out to Joe. Way to
Yeah,
go,
shout out
Joe.
Joe. Yeah. So what did you have any topics you wanted to focus on or any questions?
Well, let's just follow up on one. Let's talk about tapping.
Oh
And
yeah.
is tapping a weakness? Does tapping get you to your goals earlier? Tapping have to do with the ego? So what do you think about tapping?
So I think I was actually just listening to a podcast with Lex Friedman and John Danaher, and they
Okay.
talked about this exact thing. And John put it into probably exactly my thoughts. He was saying in the training room, there's no reason not to tap early and often because nothing bad happens if you tap. You don't lose anything and you don't forego any prize money. You just reset the position. Um, one tiny asterisk that I think is important to note is that sometimes you want to learn how to get out of these deep like terrible positions, maybe like with your arm out and your arm extended. And maybe someone could make an argument of that's when it's okay to not tap early in the training room. But
Mm,
also, if you're gonna do that, I feel like have you should communicate that with your partner. And yeah, the partner really depends on how far you take the tap.
yeah.
Because yeah, I have a friend, one of my main training partners in San Diego. We go pretty we tap pretty late, but it's because we know that we're going to tap late. and we know that we each compete a lot and we're not gonna hurt the other person. Like he's put me out with an arm triangle, but it's
Oh,
but that one was because I just had no idea that it was that tight. I remember thinking, oh, I should probably tap now, but by the time I thought that, I was waking up.
you're waking up and
Yeah.
everyone's looking down at
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. But yeah, I definitely think there are times when you can push the limits of your body, but those times are very rare, and you have to have an open line of communication with your partner and let them know that that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, that's really good. And with the communication, what's nice about that is it's now allowing both of you to work in a deep position. So someone is able to work on, okay, how can I get out of this, or how can I survive a little bit longer until I can get out of it? And then the other person is trying to control the position, making sure that they've got position before submission, and getting those last little details in order to to get that tap. Or if they can't get it, then they're already thinking about what they're going to transition to. So that's really good. I think for beginner people, they make the mistake of thinking that tapping is weakness rather than tapping is a part of learning. And also tapping is a part of ego control. Because it seems as if the faster you can put your ego aside, the quicker you're actually going to learn.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mentioned last week that I've been working on my ankle locks a lot, and I've been trying some new like leg positioning, and always one of the first things I have to kind of consciously, one of the first decisions I have to make in my mind is that I'm gonna I'm gonna do these new positions in roles and I'm going to lose. Like
Mm,
I'm not gonna succeed at these new positions because I've never done them before, and I just don't know how to navigate them. But I do also know that in time, once I have these failures at the beginning,
yeah.
I will succeed in the end, and then I'll be able to execute the position or the move or the submission very well after I've had all those um all those trial and error processes and periods.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that I love about jujitsu. I love about other sports as an adult, because as an adult, we tend to get into these really comfortable places where we stop learning and we stop wanting to put ourselves in awkward positions where we're the lowest on the totem pole, or we're having to learn from other people because it's awkward and it feels weird. And especially when you've had some success in your life and you're like, I don't want to start over again. So jujitsu is one of those things that it keeps you in the playground. It keeps you young in a way, and it keeps you hungry for wanting to improve yourself. So yeah, that's I think what you're doing is excellent, especially as you're refining your game and you're realizing what you want your game to be like, and you're just sharpening yourself as you gain more of these skills.
Yeah, that you mentioning that uh kind of reminded me of a quote from one of my friends named Seamus, who he kind of travels around and does jujitsu base. He just graduated last year from my school. But he's a super good training partner and pretty good at jujitsu. But he just visited a couple months ago, and I was talking to him a lot about his travels because he went to Thailand. He's in Brazil right now.
Hmm.
He's going all across the US. But he told me, he said, "Oh, dude, sometimes I just like being a white belt in things." And I was kind of like, what does that mean? But then he started talking about how when he was traveling, he was just learning so many different new things,
Yeah.
and and like he kind of brings that jujitsu mentality to the new things where it's like I'm a white belt in this. I don't know anything, but I'm going to learn. So I thought that was a really interesting thing that someone said to me relating to jujitsu, and it's a pretty good life philosophy. Like
It absolutely is.
you're gonna be a white belt in most things. You just gotta accept it.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
and if you can accept being a lifelong learner, because I mean, I think that's what we all should be like. I feel like we're here in order to learn. But if you can accept being a lifelong learner and be curious and enthusiastic about your learning in all aspects of life, man, you bring that attitude that you have in jujitsu off the mat, you're gonna be golden. You know, things are gonna come to you in a way, and you're just going to soak them up, but it's going to be a fun process at the same time.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So shout out to Seamus as well.
Yeah, Seamus, his Instagram is around the mat.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
good one. Around the
Yeah.
mat. Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Um, yeah.
All right. Well, anything else that we should I've got a couple other things, but we could talk about that next time. But anything else
Yeah.
that we should
No, I think we covered some pretty good stuff. Nice, short and sweet, but still very, very condensed and filled with good information.
yeah, good.
Yeah. what are your plans rest of the day?
I've got another call. I spent most of the day with the marketing team setting up things for the website, social media, figuring out some strategy stuff. So I'm going to set up a YouTube channel just for me, but then that's going to allow the clinic. I'm going to allow the clinic to utilize some of the content from my channel. So we kind of
Hmm,
figured that out, setting up Instagram, Facebook. So
nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I really liked what you sent me, so I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to seeing some of these. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah, I
cool.
haven't posted any of them yet, but I'll start posting them, and yeah, I'll send you some more of the ones I make.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be good.
Sounds good.
Good. Well, let's do it again next week.
Yeah, next Wednesday, I'll yeah, you can text me with a more specific time, but yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty free, so
Okay. Sounds
all
good. So
right.
get some rest. Get
I
some rest.
will.
Okay.
I will.
All right, Kai.
See
You
ya.
take it easy.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, buddy. Bye bye.